Hi guys, yesterday we were talking about resume and what not to add on your resume. I didn't talk too much about it. As I was mentioning yesterday, there's so much to talk about. There's just different topics. But today, I will talk about more of this job market. Um, I think this job market has been affecting a lot of us in many ways. Um, and for the most part, it's not a positive thing. The job market is has been for years now, um, affected many employers, candidates, just the economy, um, you know, as a whole. Um, I think this is a global impact for America, but nevertheless, you one would not think that it would happen to you living in America because the job market in America should be viable at all times because we, many people throughout the world immigrate to come to our country. Um, so with that being said, my parents immigrated um, to here, and I was born here in the United States. Uh, Thankfully, I was raised in the United States and have been able to enjoy the flexibility of being able to work seamlessly with any company with no issues of getting hired. Starting off as a preteen, I've always worked selling items or chocolates, door to door, and also was a supervisor. I've always had supervisor roles or manager roles, starting in the I worked at Kroger for instance, and it was pretty much just being over the employees and something that I did enjoy at that time to do. The pay was not that great. I mean, it was probably what, $6 at that time. So I mean, it was what I thought at that time of being a preteen, a great opportunity. But I will say this: um, after that, I've had other jobs, but I've worked in many different roles and with different companies, but never really had an issue, with getting a job, right? Because when you're a hard worker and you're not just speaking about you're able to contribute to the company as far as your work ethic and making sure you show up on time and you don't call in, right? So those are all the things that a company wants, right? Someone that is reliable, right? And but with that being said, there's just not so many jobs now in this job market. The job market is getting scarce as far as the job market goes. The jobs are very limited now. So I've applied on LinkedIn. I normally that's where I apply because I work in a professional role. So that's where I would typically find my role on LinkedIn or whether it's Indeed. But again, those are the main two platforms that I would use as the search engine to apply. Also, applying directly to the company. That's another thing that has helped me throughout my years of working. And again, I haven't had issues. Have I been laid off? Of course, because who hasn't with this economy? But it has never, as I mentioned before, has been due to my work ethic or performance. I mean, I'm one of those workers that will show up you know, with a blood bag literally attached to me if I needed to coming out of the hospital, because that's just my work ethic, because I do believe in investing in the company that has allowed you to work there, right? But the company as well should be invested in the employees as well, right? So I am seeing a lot of LinkedIn jobs that are not actually viable, that are being reposted, and that are actually something that I've already applied to, and then they repost the job. And so what happens there is those jobs are not necessarily looking for someone immediately. They're possibly looking for someone in the future. And sometimes what happens is that LinkedIn will leave those jobs active because the company at one time had that posting. Now, if the company, and again, this is from experience, if a company does not tell LinkedIn or the company themselves close that role or pause it, candidates are only going to believe that the roles are still active and are still open, right? They're viable roles, but in actuality, they're not. So you have to be very cautious. There's a lot of certain things that happen and when you're applying to these jobs that you have to be aware of. And again, those are little nuances that hopefully we will one day change, because we have a lot of people that are saying their jobs are there, right? The government is saying the jobs are there. The companies are saying the jobs are there. But again, when you go in to apply for those jobs, and the job is being reposted again, that's why you're seeing it reposted again, because the job is not necessarily something new. It's just being recycled. In other words, it's just something that you're not aware of, but because as a recruiter, as a talent acquisition, and working in HR, that's something that I've observed. But I myself have always been very active on making sure that if someone is hired immediately, I close or I pause any job that I know that is not going to be hiring someone within, with the time frame of a month or 2 or 3, or or maybe we already hired someone. So that's another thing that happens. If you already hire someone in a job, sometimes the job doesn't get closed, and so it's being recycled from LinkedIn or whether it's Indeed, and so they don't know. These search engines are really just there to keep those jobs active, right? Because the company has some type of arrangement with these search engines. But again, be very cautious when you are applying to those roles, because again, it has nothing to do with you. And I know that has happened to me. Even now, when I'm applying to these jobs, that's something that I'm always seeing still. But again, I would say it's up to the recruiter. Remember, recruiters have a lot of jobs, guys. For example, I have had about, how many jobs I've had? About roughly, my minimum has been 20 active roles that I've worked on a day-to-day basis, and maximum has been close to 80 roles. So that's alarming. That's something that you got to understand, that sometimes the recruiters are really swamped with responding to candidates, with following up on different processes, on scheduling interviews, on making sure that the offer letters are being signed out, that the details of the offer letters are all accurate and correct. making sure that the onboarding is being, you know, started or initiated, and the permission is being sent out to the candidate, making sure that the interviews are being scheduled when they are scheduled for the with the hiring manager in the company. And sometimes the hiring managers would want to interview one particular candidate more than 3 times, right? Because again, this is just what the companies want to do. How many interviews there are. For example, myself, I've never have ever had just one interview. It's always been, okay, a screening from the recruiter. The second call will be for you to speak with the hiring manager, the one who is hiring for this role. And then if you pass that bucket, then you get green lighted to head to the next step, which would be most likely other hiring managers, right? And then that will be your third interview, right? And then let's say it's just a virtual, that would be your third interview with other hiring managers, just to get to know them and for them to see if you would be a good fit for the role, and be able to collaborate with these stakeholders and hiring managers with the company. And once you get passed to the next bucket, then it will be the fourth interview, which would be the most likely a leadership person that makes the decision, or that has the determining decision on whether you will be hired or not. And then most of the times there's a last minute interview with the HR representative. It could just be any HR representative. It could be you as the HR representative for the recruiter, or it could be someone else, a director, a VP, an executive from HR that is signing off on this approval to hire this individual. Then you know there's other things that initiate the process. But again, what I'm telling you is that recruiters have a lot to do. We wear many hats, and that is just a little bit that I've talked to you about on a day-to-day basis. And again, if you have interviews set up, you imagine could have about 10 interviews set up for that day, and then you have a lot of other things that you have to follow up. You have to make sure you keep up with your metrics on your KPIs, and you have your Excel sheet, and everything is documented, and everything that you do as a recruiter has to be very detailed. So yeah, it is not an easy role. And again, someone that is in this role is someone that is very proactive. Really just depends on the recruiter, but at least speaking for myself, it's something that I've known to do and how to do it. And I'm obviously not afraid to work, because, I love to work and I love to perform. But I'm giving you those certain feedback as far as like the information I just gave you, because I want you to know that the jobs that you're looking for are sometimes not being responded because the recruiter is extremely busy, and sometimes they're just getting inundated with other things. Not necessarily that they don't want to take care of it, right? But myself, again, I have, I know how to organize myself. I know how to make sure that, hey, if I am going to put a certain role on pause, what are we doing? We're going to have a discussion with the hiring managers to make sure that, hey, are you closing this job pretty soon, or are we pausing? How soon are you wanting to hire? Because if not, we're going to need to put this on hold. I like to say that because the last thing I want is candidates to be applying to a black hole, right? And this is pretty much what happens. And again, it's nothing to say that the companies are doing something out of despite. Sometimes it's really just little nuances that you need to be aware of. That is something that is just probably something that once you're familiar with it, I notice sometimes that certain companies do this a lot. Uh, so it's something that you'll see often. Like, okay, if this company is constantly posting a job, which is a similar role, and you continue to apply for a year or two, um, you on the back end for that company that you're applying for, you're being seen as someone that is um, actively applying to the role, and you won't be considered to the role as well. And that is a bias, because you're continuously wanting to be hired. But if you're applying to the same jobs, and you already did it for the third time, and there is no call and there's no response from them, the best thing for you to do is to look for another company. But if you can try to reach out to that company, on LinkedIn, on the to the recruiter over the role, or just call the HR department and see if that role is still active, and if they're really recruiting for the role. That'd probably be your best route in this situation. But again, those are all the things that I'm letting you know about the job market, and how this is how the companies are working certain jobs, and how you're seeing that, hey, they're not responding. But this is kind of a little bit of detail as to what is going on in the background, that you're not aware of. And because I've been aware of all of this for over 10 plus years, and working with different companies. I've even worked for a staffing company, so again, I know the ins and outs of how they're doing. But again, I'm letting you know to help you, to ease your mind as to, hey, help you out and say, hey, I understand how this actually works now. What can I do now? What other how can you pivot from here? What do you do now? So again, I just wanted to let y'all know that again, this is a lot of information to discuss, and hopefully it will help y'all. And again, I am talking without having something recorded or reading off of something, because I'm just going off of what comes to my mind, what my experience is, and I've been familiar with. So I'm not gonna read anything and try to be perfect at it. This is just me. This is the real experience coming from a real recruiter that has worked with multiple Fortune 500 companies, and has over 10 plus years working as an HR senior corporate, and has worked in various strong industries. But again, I hope this helps you guys. I'm going to continue to post. This is my third video, so I hope you guys do find it informative, and it might be able to help you. If you kind of see me a little bit thinking, I like to think before I say something. It's just something I do. I like to say the right word before I just blurt something out. So that's why you guys see me communicate this way. But as I get comfortable on here, hopefully that would come a lot easier. But anyway, I hope that helps, guys, and I wish you guys luck. Please hang in there. I know how stressful this can be to all of y'all. Hang in there. I'm here to help you and support you. Comment and see if you would like or suggest a topic you would like for me to discuss, because I think we can learn from each other. I think we can grow with learning from one another. So I'm a big believer on that. So I don't know everything. You guys might know something new that I don't know and I'm not aware of. But I mean, I do know a lot about my industry. And again, I've worked for various industries. And then I also worked for banking. So at one point that was my career. But when you're working recruiting, the good thing about recruiting is I can work at any industry as long as I can do the job. And I know I have, and I've delivered successfully. So that's not an issue that I have. The issue right now is finding a job and that you can actually be stable with, because of the job market clashing, and it's not stable. And so with that, you know, your job will play a role. The recruiters are always the ones to first be let go, um, because of the fact that, you know, if you're not hiring, then you're not needed, right? So that's why you see a lot of my colleagues being let go, and why there's so many of them on LinkedIn, and actively applying, because it is hard, guys. It's not just hard for you guys. It's not just hard for me. It's hard for everyone right now. This job market has affected everyone globally, not just in the United States, but this has affected other countries. Again, I come from an immigrant family, and I do hear a lot of these stories, and I watch a lot of documentaries, so I kind of inform myself before I just say something as to why I'm talking about a certain topic. But I do find this talent acquisition, recruiting, HR, I do find that world very, very interesting, because everyone needs a job at the end of the day, right? I need a job, right? We all need a job. We cannot do anything without a job. So I think it's an amazing thing that since I have knowledge, it would be good for me to just keep it with me. But I don't think that helps anybody, nor myself. I need to help others. And I always have anyway, since that's just who I am in general. I'm pretty much a natural coaching person. When I'm talking to somebody, I like to lift people up. It's just in me. It's in my nature. I've always been like that. So this is why I felt like this is the need for me to post now. So hopefully you guys find this useful, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day, and have a good one. Bye-bye.